Hello everybody, welcome here to ABA with Dr. D. This is your host, Dr. D. In today's segment, we're going to be talking about describing common functions of behavior. In the field of behavior analysis, obviously we're all about functions. We want to know the why, basically of why a child or an individual engages in a specific behavior. So in this particular segment, we're going to be covering this. So the BCBA tax list that this is relevant to is F.5. If you're keeping track of that, if you want to study, use this video as a studying purpose, that's what we're basically basing it off of. And once again, I look forward to reviewing this information with you. By the way, before I get started, I want to appreciate all of you guys out there for subscribing to our channel, for giving us phenomenal likes and everything, and supporting this growth that we have, which is a great once again resource for people in our field and people obviously that just can benefit from some information about our wonderful field of behavior analysis. So let's cover some very basic stuff here about common functions of behavior. So here it just says that let's assume that all behaviors are lawful. What does this mean? It means that there's a cost to occurrence of every behavior. So every single behavior serves a purpose. Okay. In our field, we always talk about that we don't say, well, something just occurred out of the blues. Like there's no we don't know why. We try not to blame, once again, the individual. We try not to say, oh, it's because of diagnosis. That is why this individual engaged in these behaviors. We overall look at all the contingencies. We look at the environment to basically figure out, that question as to why is that behavior occurring. Now, how do you say this in a behavioral way? Is each behavior is reinforced and maintained by some kind of reinforcing stimuli. Now, if we do our homework, we do a really thorough assessment of the environment, we will find out there's something in the environment that for sure is the reason why this behaviors continue being reinforced. Okay, so once again, really important, bullet points here. Now, I'm gonna talk about these, very basic, acronym here that I used it. They used it with me when I was learning about behavior. Some people have gone away from it. That anybody has their ways of going about it, but this really helped me memorize and remember the functions of behavior. So if you want to practice this, and you want to write it down on a piece of paper and just basically memorize these. These are really relevant to our field. I still hear it out there. It's called SEAT. The sensory, which is basically the automatic portion or function. We have escape, which is the E. Attention is A, and then tangible T, which basically gives us an acronym of SEAT. Okay, so once again, this is a very common acronym that we use in the field of behavior analysis to, basically remember the functions of behavior. Now, here's a couple more bullet points. So please remember that how the behavior looks like has nothing to do with the behavior function. So they're talking about a lot of times in our field, people focus a lot on the topography, how the behavior basically looks. And for us, once again, as behavior analysts, we really need to focus more on the function, right? The reason as to why this behavior is occurring. So it just makes a bit more of that, note there that that's something that we need to really focus when we're working in the field. So for example, it says here multiple children might engage in similar forms of tantrum, but one child may engage in the tantrum because in the past tantrum was reinforced by mother's attention. Another child might engage in tantrum because in the past tantrum was reinforced by mother giving him his iPad. So you understand how a tantrum, if we just focus on the tantrum, per se, we wouldn't be able to tell these differences. So once again, in our field, we really need to ensure that we are looking at functions versus topography. Okay. Now, when you do data collection, some people do like to do a topography-based data collection system. Some people like to do a function-based data collection system. It's up to your criteria as a clinician. Myself, I once again had both. I've done both types of data collection systems. So it really is based on what is more appropriate in that particular context in the client basically you're working with. So we're going to start with the first function, which is sensory or automatic, and this is a type of positive or negative reinforcement. It does not depend on the others to provide reinforcement. Now, this is a really tricky one, the automatic or sensory, type of function. Some form of sensory stimulation produces a result of behavior itself. Just to give you some reference, sensory or automatic are behaviors that basically all humans engage in. Okay, so for example, when you have an itch, and you scratch yourself, that right there is something that you do because you want to relieve that itch. When we have a headache, right, that's something that you yourself experience, so you take Tylenol or some type of medication to make you feel better. So sensory automatic is not exclusive just for individuals with autism or other specific disabilities. It is something that every human being experiences. Now, why is it such a big deal in the field of behavior analysis when we're working with individuals with autism? Is the fact that a lot of these behaviors sometimes interrupt and get in the way from learning. And sometimes, they do become socially significant because once again, it takes away an opportunity for individuals to be able to focus or attend to whatever instruction is being provided by the instructor. So that is why, once again, these behaviors go from, something that every human being experiences to something that needs to be worked on. So some examples of automatic function consist of scratching arm, which is an example I gave you guys earlier. We have an itch, you scratch. Rocking back and forth is another one. Sometimes that feeling of going back and forth, the sensation, is something that people like to do. Myself, I sometimes rock back and forth when I'm kind of like bored, I'm in the meeting, I'm kind of like going back and forth. Spitting is another behavior that sometimes individuals like to see the spit go on the ground. So also blocking sunlight with your hand, possible negative reinforcement. Sometimes where the light's too bright, we sometimes use our hands. So you might be walking around, if you're going out there, especially right now it's getting hot, it's the summers is here, you may see people doing this right here, motion, and they're doing that because they're trying to remove that light from hitting their eyes. So once again, automatic function or automatic reinforcement, it is something that's relevant to all human beings. So please do not forget that. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys, show you some videos here, some cool videos that we saw. It's autism stemming from imagination. So you guys can kind of take a look at some examples that we see in our field. So let me go ahead and give this a play. Okay, so this is, I have not seen this video. So what we're seeing here is, it seems like it's a child. He's sitting, he's basically hitting the table. He's making some sounds, he's by himself. Right, so obviously there's a person recording here, but he's basically on his own. This is a very common type of behavior we see with some people, once again, with some individuals when they engage in some type of self-stimulatory behavior here. I'm assuming that the sound itself might be reinforcing for this individual based on this video, but we'll keep watching. Okay, he saw that, so he kind of tapped his head a little bit, and he's kind of like doing this motion here in the back. So it seems maybe that sometimes that feeling, basically that pressure in your head, sometimes, that sensation feels good for the individual. So, yeah, keep seeing more. See that? He's kind of like swiping his hands, doing this. Okay, kind of tapping the side of the table there. Okay, continues doing that.
Hey everybody.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it there. It's gonna go into explanation mode. Let's go out. I have another one here for you guys. Let's see. This is another video. Here we have the individual basically flapping his hands. Okay, which is again another very common behavior in our field. That we see, right, when we do assessments, we see the stemming of, flapping hands. I have to say, like, flapping hands is something that if it's really not interrupting, their day-to-day basis, individuals' day-to-day basis, is not really interrupting any type of significant flow, it should not be a big deal. But if it is something that, once again, is getting in the way from basically being able to learn, individuals basically spending more time flapping their hands and being able to attend to a teacher, an instructor, then that's where it becomes a socially significant behavior. A lot of times we get this conversation with parents that they're like, hey, look, I'm not sure about this behavior, it looks weird. I'm not sure what people are going to think when they see my child engaging in these behaviors. But at the end of the day, we have to think about, is this behavior really causing or interrupting this person's, learning and overall day-to-day functioning? And if not, it's not. Even if it's weird, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we all engage in some type of odd behaviors, consider odd behaviors. So that should not be our criteria. It should really be based on whether this behavior is truly interrupting this particular individual's learning. Okay, so let's see if there's a bit more here. Okay, so you see he's kind of moving his hands there. Okay, so that right there's another example. Okay, so those are examples of behaviors that are considered sensory. If we do an assessment of these behaviors, what you're going to notice, these behaviors are occurring in isolation, the individuals by themselves. There's nobody around, and they're just engaging in this behavior. It does not. They could care less. The individual could care less for any type of attention there. It's all about the overall reinforcement that they're getting through the movement, through the senses. Right? Think about senses. The smell, the movement. All of these things are things that are being truly reinforced being inactivated when the individual is engaging in this particular behavior. Now, the next function we're going to talk about is escape. Okay, escape is a very common function that we treat in the clinical setting. This is considered a type of negative reinforcement. Socially mediated basically means that there has to be another individual in the room or in the environment that allows for this behavior or reinforces this behavior. Okay, behavior results in termination of or removal from something an individual finds subversive. Now, once again, escape is a behavior that we all engage in. All human beings that, we all engage in some type of escape behavior or avoidant behavior, and that happens. That's just normal, right? That's something that occurs. Now, where it becomes a problem is when, once again, these behaviors, these escape maintain behaviors, are now interfering or interrupting the flow of learning for the individual, and we see that sometimes. Okay, so when an individual's being asked to do an assignment or they're asked to do a chore, some type of daily living skill, they engage in these massive or really intense behaviors, and that's where these behaviors now become very socially significant. Okay, so here's some examples. So once again, non-preferred tasks such as homework or washing hands, being in unpleasant places, maybe too much sound, too much movement, stinky smells is a big one, people, food, toys, etc. So these are all behavior or basically contexts or situations that could evoke these behaviors. Okay, now I'm going to give you an example here. This is one of the videos we actually had for our function analysis series here, but you guys can get a good sense of what an escape behavior can look like when an instruction is going to be presented. Okay. Wow, great job doing your homework, Edward. Good stuff. It's time to do your homework.
I don't want to.
You need to do your homework.
I don't want to.
Come on, or else we're not going to be able to play.
No.
You know what? I'm not dealing with this right now. Okay. So that right there was an example. I said, hey, time to do your homework, time to do your assignment. What did the child do? He said, I don't want to. And then eventually he threw a pencil at me. And what did I do? I removed the instruction or the demand, whatever you want to call it. And at the end of the day, that is what happens. I reinforce the behavior, and what's going to occur in the future, there's high probability that he's going to engage in the same behavior because it worked for him. Now that right there is just an example, a very generic example of escape. Sometimes these behaviors could be a bit more complex. There's a bit more things going on there, but this is once again a pretty basic example for an escape maintain behavior. Okay. Wow. All right, so we're gonna now look at the next function, which is attention. Attention is a very big one, and a lot of times people overdo it when it comes to say, yeah, that behavior is for attention maintain. I hear that a lot. I hear that for sensory and for attention. Those two tend to be the go-to functions when people try to like distinguish or say why a behavior is occurring. But attention does occur. Okay, attention once again is something that all human beings, we all need attention. And when we're not able to get attention in a way, in any form or manner, we engage in behaviors to get it. Okay, and that happens in our field. This is considered a type of positive reinforcement. It is socially mediated because we need another human being to give us that attention. And behavior once again results in access to that person's attention, that reaction that people sometimes are getting. Now, some people may say, well, Dr. D, you are engaging in these behaviors of recording these videos for attention, and that may be, right? That subscription and the overall likes that you guys give me, that is probably reinforcing my behavior, making more videos, but that is part of being human. Okay, it is something that we do seek that attention and that reaction from people. Okay, now some forms of examples of attention can be that you can deliver attention in the form of praise. Reprimands is a big one, and that tends to be a very big one actually. Your parents, when they get upset, when the child continues kind of nagging or getting these behaviors, they're trying to get that reaction. Facial expressions, reaction can be positive or negative. Eye contact, physical touch, and smiles. Okay, these are all considered attention, right? Here's an example of a video for attention. Let's take a look.
1, 2.
Okay.
Edward's turn.
So I remove the attention from the child, and what is he gonna do? He goes to his pencil move,
Nice.
right? What did I do? I said that's not nice,
That's
and I
nice.
give it attention,
Come on, Edward.
and I give attention. Okay, so once again, that's a very generic example there. There's other really good examples out there on YouTube. You guys can literally type attention-seeking behaviors. You guys can get a lot. But this is a very generic one, very basic one. But it does give, I think, the example there of what happens when you remove the attention from a child. The child engages in some type of behavior, and boom, they get attention. I've seen a lot of times, for example, this right here, when you have siblings in the room or in the environment, and the mom or the dad are kind of like attending to the other child, and then what does our client do or the other child do? They start engaging in tantrums, or they start throwing things to get the parent to look at them, and sometimes the reaction is a reprimand or some type of like reaction that the individual is trying to get from them. So this is a very common behavior. Okay, the next one is tangible. This is our final function here that we look at with the SEAT acronym. It's considered positive reinforcement. It is socially mediated as well, so it does require another person. So anytime you see socially mediated, it means another person in the environment needs to be present. And behavior results in access to preferred items, activities, or whatever items they're interested in. Here they can get toys, activities, food, materials. Now, this is a behavior, once again, that we see with all human beings. Like the other ones we talked about, everybody watching the video, you will have all engaged in a tangible maintained behavior. Come on. When you guys have, a child, even today, I've seen it. When you guys go to the store, I see individuals getting so upset when they're not getting their food right away. They start getting, really flustered, so they start screaming or yelling. We had a couple React videos there that I posted. You guys should probably check those ones out, where it does demonstrate some examples of tangible there. So yes, we all engage in tangible, behaviors, and that's something that. And I just want to also reiterate that all of these functions were demonstrated the not so good behaviors, but there are appropriate behaviors that we demonstrate to get access to tangible items. So for example, when I say, can I please have that cookie over there, please? And then the person says, hey, great asking, here's the cookie. So that right there is an example of tangible, but the difference is that I am asking for it appropriately. It is an appropriate behavior, which once again, we see with our kids. Okay, so here's an example of a tangible behavior.
I really want chips. Dad, I want chips.
No, not right now. We can't have chips right now. Okay, he says, I really want chips. So he gets the chips. So he saw that. So he said, Dad, I really want chips. So that would have been quote unquote appropriate behavior. I said, no, you can't have it right now. And then he throws the pencil at me. He kind of protests, and boom, I give the chips to the child. And that once again is a pretty generic example of a tangible. But hey, that's an example, and you guys will see a lot of these examples actually when you're working in the field. I've seen this a lot when, for example, parents take their child to the store. The child is looking for a toy or looking for a snack. Parent says, no, we can't get it right now, it's too expensive. Or you just had a snack. Boom, that as soon as the child hears that, you start seeing the tantrums, the meltdowns, etc. And then what happens afterward, the parent kind of feels embarrassed, so what they do is they buy the item. And in the future, right, the child realizes, hey, all I got to do is just engage in these behaviors, and I get access to what I need, right, what I want. So these are examples of scenarios that actually happen out there. Okay. Now, before I leave you for this particular video, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer these questions on the comments section. I haven't really seen many comments, so I really want to see more interaction from you. So here is the first question. It says, which of the following is not a function of behavior? A, control. B, attention. C, tangible. D, automatic. Okay. You guys can answer this on the comment section. The next one is, which of the following behavior function is not socially mediated? So attention, escape, automatic, or tangible. Okay. And every time a child cries, mother says stop it. In the future, the child cries more. What would be the function of that? Attention, escape, tangible, or automatic? Okay, those are the questions. Please feel free to answer it. I'm curious to see your answers there. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't done so, and I'm gonna repeat this a million times, subscribe. We really need your support, and also don't forget to give us likes. Hit that notification bell, because we have videos almost every single week, and you don't want to miss out, right? This is really good information for trainings, for parent training, whatever kind of clinical work you're doing for studying purposes. This information is for you. Take care now. Have a good one.